much. Some questions. How much should I save or contribute to my child's education? Ugh, that one's like an emotional one for me. I feel like it was just yesterday that we were packing their lunches and walking them down the lane to get on the school bus. And then the next minute, they're applying to university.
Yeah, for sure. We always knew we wanted to help them with their secondary education. We just didn't know exactly how that looked.
Yeah, and I feel like it looks different for every family. I think every family has different situations and scenarios. And for us, we lived on a farm. We still live in the farm, and the girls didn't want to live in res. So figuring out the best way to help them financially or contribute was a lump sum of money, and that they could use for what they needed most at the time. And for the girls, it was a reliable vehicle to drive back and forth. Also, the lump sum of money just covered off where they needed it most. And at the same time, we were still, in the middle of life, dealing with major life expenses on our end.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think you always experience as a parent a bit of guilt. You feel like you want to support them 100% on everything, but
Totally.
It's not always realistic.
Totally, and I feel like money and guilt go hand in hand. That's just like how I view it, and I feel like there's a lot of comparison to if you hear other parents are doing something different. But I think sitting down with our RBC advisor and going over a plan that works best for our family and thinking more long term made it a whole lot less overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest takeaway for us is that we did the best we could with what we had and what we knew at the time. Situations change over the year, and looking back, it may not have been the perfect thing that we did for the girls, but we supported them the best way we could. And I think that mattered. And even starting small and having like a conversation about money. Money was so taboo growing up to talk about. So just like overcoming that hurdle, having those conversations with them, and then with our advisor, it set us up for a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I think every family's financial situation is different.
Yeah. I also feel just the more we started having conversations with the girls and with our RBC advisor, it did help make it less overwhelming.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Let's see. How to cope when adult children move back home? Ooh, that's a good question. I would say I didn't see this one coming, which is funny because I moved back home maybe actually even more than once. Our adult children were building a house on land, and they needed about 8 or 9 months. So we decided that it was best for us to invite them to live with us while they built their home, so that they had that extra amount of time to save money. And I guess I didn't really think about the impact of that day to day. I was just like, yes, of course, that's what we can do for you, and that's what we're going to do for you. So we had them live with us while they built, and it was like an impact immediately in so many ways that maybe I wasn't prepared for. We're very tight-knit, and we always will pitch in where we can. Number one, groceries. The cost of groceries, and all of a sudden you're feeding 2 more adult children when it was just the 2 of you, plus we had our youngest daughter finishing off university, so she was in the home too. There was that, and then sharing the space and coming up with schedules and routines and just all learning to respect that. And that was fine. We're, like I said, we're very close-knit, so that wasn't really that big of a deal. It was really imperative that we learned to cut back where we could, save a little money in certain areas so that, we could afford the groceries and the power bills and all those things. And sitting down with our RBC advisor really helped us come up with a path that we felt comfortable with in that regard. I do feel like there's a lot of families going through this, the way things are so expensive. And I think adult children sometimes do move back home to save money. I'm grateful for that time. I always kept saying in the back of my head, these are, times and moments we won't get back. I have no regret at all having them here. And for them to be able to plunk a little bit more money in the bank to afford the home of their dreams that's the very least we could do. The coping part was easier when we had a little bit of a plan, and coming up with that plan just made everything feel like less stressful, just really super helpful. Some of the things that we talked about, we never would have thought of on our own. So yeah, it was a good situation all around, a busy situation, but it worked out really well.
To open up this lunchbox.
Oh, it's not one, but it's a question. How much does it cost to care for aging parents? It's an interesting question. I think from my standpoint, I'm totally different from yours because my parents are no longer around. But when they retired, it didn't cost me anything. They were well planned for retirement and they were able to live within their means.
I have a very different situation. With my parents, there is, I guess, this expectation that me and my brothers will just pay for whatever it is to take care of them because that is our duty, being their kids, and that's what we owe them. While I'd love to just say that we can just easily provide all the money in the world to take care of them, unfortunately, we have also a young family. We also know our kids will go to school, to university. They play competitive sports, and I have tried to talk to them about this. I've tried to talk to my brothers about it, and I think the most important thing is trying to get my brothers on the same page so that we can have these kind of conversations with my parents. I did come across an article by RBC that, offered a lot of valuable insight as to how much costs are when it comes to aging parents. Like it can range from anywhere from a couple $100s to thousands of dollars a month, depending on their health issues, depending on the needs of the house. Yeah, that's a lot, and we're learning as we go. I'm grateful that there are articles and there are people that we can talk to, and there's, like I said, the article by RBC that's helped kind of give me a little bit of reassurance that we can financially plan ahead. Do you want to open up the lunchbox?
Okay. Opening this bad boy up.
So how do I talk to aging parents about money?
Sticky situation. What I have the issue is that at one point in time, they were in our same position. I get it. It's a different age in time now.
We have tried to talk to my parents about it, and I think they don't want to hear it. Well, my dad doesn't want to hear it. My mom's a little bit more open to it, but I think, sometimes it's very selective hearing, or they just go back to their own old ways. We have had a conversation about budgeting. They get a pension, and we've talked about, wants and needs, and it often doesn't get received well. So, it's really hard for me as the only daughter, and it falls very heavily on the only daughter. And my brothers, they do help.
Well, it's funny because my dad, before he passed, his profession was an accountant, so he was always pretty tight about money and where to spend it and whatnot. And I know a lesson that he's always preached to me was live within your means. You make this much, you live within that, right? So and you make it work.
Yeah. Actually, on the RBC website there is a step-by-step guide to help people like myself have conversations with their parents about money, because there is a lot of stigma associated with it, and especially culturally, that you just don't talk about money, and so I think being brave enough to have the conversation or start small, I think is a first step. And so there is a step-by-step guide on the RBC website, which has been really helpful, I guess, for me, just to kind of get the courage to try to initiate this conversation. And I am trying to get my brothers on board so that we can have the conversation together, because I think it would be received differently when the three of us could talk to our parents about money and financial planning, budgeting, and yeah, I think yes, all of us are all willing to help within our means. And
to spread it out, it's way easier than just burdening one. Your burden is at getting the team together, you and your brothers together, and tackling it together.
This is where we're at. We're gonna figure it out. We've got to start somewhere, because time goes fast, and then before we know it, 10 years have passed and we still haven't had the conversation. So yeah, we got to start somewhere.
Let's see if we've got a sandwich in here. No. Question: how do I catch up on retirement savings? That's fitting. I do have to catch up on my retirement savings if I plan on retiring. But see, when I started university, I started off doing the right things, right? I saved in RRSPs for my retirement, right? I was taught through school and from my father that, you know, if you start early enough and put away consistently, you'll be able to retire. Because when I left school, fewer people were getting, you know, pensions in the traditional sense, like maybe my grandfather had. And people are responsible for, you know, saving for themselves. So I did that, but, you know, then life happens. Things change, priorities change. I left my job, the corporate world, to start my own business. And, you know, that can be challenging. There were great years, some not so great years. My kids, they went to university, which was awesome. And we helped them with that. So I shifted from saving with our RSPs, shifted to our ESP savings. And that helped put our kids through university, which was great. My youngest has 1 year left. But anyways, yeah, but the RRSP savings for retirement kind of has stopped, and I haven't saved as much as I had planned. So how do I catch up? I think about this, but you know, do I need to retire in the traditional sense anyways? I love what I do. I don't see myself retiring and just not doing anything. I feel like our generation is on average healthier than previous generations as we age. So we live longer, perhaps we have more energy to work longer, and I love what I do. So how much do I need to retire? I don't even know. You know, it helps to have somebody like the people at RBC to talk to, because, you know, sometimes the stress comes from just not knowing where I stand. You know, how long do I have to work full time? And how much money do I need to save, and how do I save? So that helps. So I don't know if there's one right answer to this, but it's certainly something to think about, and I'm glad I have the people at RBC to help with that. Question. Cue card. This hits deep. How do I balance saving for retirement and helping my kids? Life rarely does work out the way you planned. You know, I remember back when I was just starting out, you know, university, getting my first job, I started saving with RRSPs, and that's what you did. You know, thinking back to my parents and what I learned from them is that, you know, you save up. If you can save so much every year, you know, and start early enough, you can save enough to retire by the time you're 50, 55, 60, shouldn't be a problem. And that's what everybody did back then. Not so much now. You know, in my own career, things took a turn. My own doing. I left the corporate world and started working for myself. You know, I enjoy what I do, and I've enjoyed it immensely. But the other thing that happens is kids, right? So I had kids. I think I was 30 when my first was born, and then 33 or so in my second. They've gone through university, and when you have kids, priorities change, right? You know, starting my my new career and having kids pretty much at the same time, finances change in the house. So I stopped saving through our RSPs, and what we did is we opened up our ESPs for our kids, and that's one of the best decisions we ever made, right? It helped put our kids through university. Now my youngest has 1 year to go, but you know, the reality is that retirement savings suffered because of education savings for the kids. Not that I wouldn't do it again. I absolutely would. So what is the right balance? I don't know if I know the answer to that. I don't think there's one answer. It's going to depend on everybody, but I do know that talking to somebody at RBC helps make me feel less overwhelmed, because I think a lot of the stress comes from not knowing what to do. I feel strongly that you help your kids first and sort out your retirement later. But, you know, and sometimes getting the right advice or advice from the right people help you make the right decisions.